Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Drahcir here with a fellow YouTuber, a brother of history, of strategy, and all-around gaming. I give you the wise Coffin. Would you like to give a hello, introduce yourself, and say a little bit about your YouTube channel?
Okay, hello everyone. I'm the Wise Coffin, and I mainly focus on Total War with narrative let's plays, historical recreations, and sometimes do collaborations like odd seats and multiplayer campaigns. And once in a while, I do irregular series, which are me doing let's plays of games that are not Total War.
I definitely recommend, guys, check out those channels because, as I said, he is definitely a brother of history, so all of his stuff you know is going to have pretty much almost the same kind of content my channel is, so definitely do check him out if you haven't already. I mean, we've done so much work together. I'd be surprised if you haven't seen his channel already. You have to be living in Iraq. Now, let's crack right into these questions.
All
So
right.
I know you have, but let's just kind of put this in an official format. Have you played any Games Workshop or Warhammer lore-based games before?
No, actually, I didn't even knew what Warhammer was. I saw on the internet like images when whenever I try to find anything fantasy related, there sometimes appeared like priests with hammers and like minotaurs and whatnot, and it says that it was Warhammer. But I will always would like be, what Warhammer? I always hear this name, but I don't know what it is. And so I just find out when CA talked about Warhammer. That's really the only connection.
So, besides, I guess, the Call of Warhammer, which we'll talk about in a little bit, so if when Warhammer Total War does come out, this will be actually your first official Warhammer game then, right?
Yeah, that's true. I was like looking on the news about Warhammer Total War, and I wanted to first of all I asked Drahcir a little about the lore because I always in favor of entering in new stories, even though I always heard that Warhammer was really cheesy. Like, oh, don't go into that. That's so cheesy. It's like so stereotypical fantasy game. And I was like, really? But so many people talk about it. And why? What is Warhammer anyway? And so Drassi told me that it's like a tabletop game, and it was like the first of doing stories of fantasy, like in the 80s or 70s, right? And in that time, that was original. So right now, people saying that is really cheesy is because like many people copied Warhammer because Warhammer was actually one of the firsts to implement those kind of lore stories. And that was why I gave a shot to Warhammer because, okay, if this was like original and since Drahcir told me that there's like new additions and so they like trying to update a little so that it can be better for the people like of this year and whatnot, I tried to go for a mod called Call of Warhammer, and I was really surprised. It was incredibly good. I enjoyed all races, and like in single player, you have a lot of scripts, and it really represents well like the factions and what happens or not. And for a mod, well, it you can see that it was fans of Warhammer because I don't know, I don't even know if Warhammer Total War will be as well depicted as this mod.
Yeah,
I don't.
that truck in the background. That is going to be a interesting question to see who will do it better justice. Fans who dedicated thousands of hours, or who knows how long, or a company that's given thousands of dollars.
Yeah, but so that's why I tried to do the Call of Warhammer outseat, and the reason that I like tried to make a little more fluffy with the rules that I put and whatnot is because I heard someone talking about Warhammer Total War, and that there's going to be some effects with religion and whatnot, like chaos. Like I think someone told me, for example, if there's some if there's some influence of a chaos god, something will happen with your city. Like there will be disease or there will be like intrigue, destruction. And so that was my original idea to put the faction skills so that every faction has a little like power up so that they can try like to undermine the other players.
And that's definitely going to be very interesting. Now, when it comes to kind of backpedaling, when it comes to the lore, I mean, anyone who's watching this right now, as I told him, like Warhammer, it was kind of really the first. Like, we all know of Warcraft today, WoW, and we know of Hearthstone, we know of the RTSs, Warcraft, and even the movie that's coming out in 2016 for Warcraft. All that was actually made because of Warhammer. They're actually trying to make a Warhammer clone, and they didn't get the IP rights, so they just changed names here and there. But that's why you have the green orcs that are, the way they were. That's why when you play the first RTSs, why the orcs sound so stupid is because they're supposed to be the same orcs that you saw in Warhammer. And then even StarCraft was a carbon copy. Space Marines, you just have Marines now. Terran Marines, and instead of Zerg, instead of the Tyranids, you have the Zerg, and instead of the Eldar, you have the Protoss. I mean, these were carbon copy races practically from the original Warhammer lore. They just kind of tweaked a little bit and had this kind of thing going on. Now, when it comes to the Call of Warhammer hot seat, this is definitely going to be majorly interesting. We have a bunch of people involved in this, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit after I get this next question hammered out. So, what is your feelings on Creative Assembly actually taking up this IP? Do you feel this may actually kind of inspire you to pick up some Warhammer books in the future and maybe start reading some more on the lore, or do you feel you're just going to learn what you can from the game, or what's your overall opinion here?
Well, first, I actually, before you told me what Warhammer was, I really did not want CA to do this with Warhammer because, like, really, fantasy? They never did that before. They only do historical stuff. What the hell is this? But when you told me that, well, when you told me what the hell was Warhammer, that was like tabletop, I went and see on YouTube people playing, and they actually have like maps like of battlefields, and they put little soldiers.
Yep.
And I was like, oh yeah, this really represents Total War. Like this could be like a video game version of tabletop.
Yep.
So looking at that on YouTube, I was like, yeah, go for it. If you have the rights and if this is really applicable to Total War. I just don't know how the hell they use the powers in the battlefields, but okay.
Yeah, I think that's a question everyone's going to asking, how magic is going to balance out, how certain lord abilities are going to go, because that can be either really overpowered or completely just unpowered that no one's going to want to use it, so that's going to take a fine balancing.
Yeah, but the second part that you told me, I don't know why, but I feel much more compelled to know about Warhammer through the mod than to the actual game. Because I already saw some stuff that they showed on the Warhammer Total War that I'm not liking at all. And the Warhammer mod, in my opinion, will look much better than the actual game. Because one of first is like you can only play 4 factions, and then they will whore DLC. And in the mod you can play them all. So, hurrah. And the second thing that I really don't like is like how they are showing the factions, their moves and whatnot. It's a little weird the way that they fight. Like their moves, they look like really top action fighting scenes. The dwarves doing spins when they do the axes, like cavalry jumping when attacking. I don't know why, but I really feel more compelled to know about Warhammer through the mod than through the actual game.
Hey, fair enough, and a good point. I think a lot of people have been criticizing how over the top the action actually really is, model versus model. I mean, we kind of saw some nice choreography in Shogun 2, and we saw a little bit of okay choreography in Rome 2 and Attila, but this does kind of look like they're taking it to a next step, which will either A, when the battles do play out, look either great, or B, just flop on its ass because just how over the top and ridiculous it looks. But who knows? It is Warhammer. Sometimes that ridiculous factor is what's needed to kind of sell it. So we'll definitely have to see when it comes to that. Now, when it comes to the Warhammer mod, I guess we can start talking about that and just get really into that now, since pretty much that clears up my Warhammer questions from earlier. You're looking really forward to doing this hot seat. I know I am, and we got quite a few other YouTubers lined up, and I guess you could say that we're all pretty much role players, when it comes to this. Do you have any experience with like role playing or playing any tabletop role plays, or is this kind of like just something you started doing?
Actually, I mean, where I live, like since I'm little, me and my friends would like role play, but would not be with like actual games because first we didn't have the money to buy those, and second is like incredibly rare to find like tabletop games. For example, there was no Warhammer where I live. No one plays that. No one knows what that is. No one knows like those type of races and whatnot. It's a little like weird. But what we would do since we were little, we would invent games. Like we would pick a piece of paper, and then okay, I'm going to be this character, and my friends, you're going to be this. You're going to have these powers, and our quest is this. And then like each step, actually, this looks like a little like D&D, but
Yeah, sounds like it.
I honestly to God, I did not know what D&D was. Only like a month ago or 2 months ago that I know. Actually, I asked you.
Yeah, you asked me.
What the hell was D&D? And I was like, oh, this is very similar what I did when I was young.
Mm-hmm.
So, and even without papers, like on our neighborhood, we would like imagine we were knights and like we would pick on sticks and all right, let's go there and this way and then let us make a potion, and we would do like this crazy stuff to entertain, but we never like actually played on like tabletop stuff.
So now I guess this is kind of a way of living out, in a sense, those role plays in a virtual world where it's, granted, our imagination is always going to be the best thing in my opinion ever, but now we actually kind of have like some visual representation of what we're role playing. We got the Emperor, we got the Count of Sylvania, and then we got the other players who are playing Kislev, the Border Princes, the Dwarves, the Minions of Zinch, the Minions of Khorne, and then the Dark Elves. So it's definitely going to be interesting watching all of us just send these messages back and forth every turn, spending probably half a turn just writing up messages like, you should not pass upon this border, and just getting these storylines fleshed out, kind of like what we saw in Rise of the Three Kingdoms. And we can actually talk about that since granted, it's not Warhammer based, but I think the fans definitely who have been watching my channel and your channel definitely want to know about that. What's going on with Rise of the Three Kingdoms that you're willing to kind of talk about, and how's that going for you? Like, what's your plans, and what's your agendas going forward with this game?
Well, actually, I was going to talk about that because you were talking about like Warhammer would be my first experience out of my childhood of role playing, but actually, Rise of Three Kingdoms is the first role playing one. Like we already are role playing in Rise of Three Kingdoms, so Rise of Three Kingdoms was the first, and unfortunately, that's what I do not like in other Odysseys that I entered, because I thought other people would role play, but they don't, and some people don't even want to role play. So I was like, oh, bummer, and that's why I like to choose people like now instead of like being random. I like to choose like, okay, do you like to do this? Because I want everyone to do this. I do not feel well if like we're not playing like in a role play style, because it's the whole purpose of playing. I mean, I think like the purpose of playing is like you immersed in the world that you're playing. So I do not understand why people like just want to do like math when playing, like, okay, this unit is the best one to do this, and I'm just going to make a stack of these type of units so that I can win. Like, I don't like that. I like to role play kind of.
Math hammer.
What weird? Oh yes, in the Rise of Three Kingdoms, I never hide this from anyone. I always told I'm going to be the freaking douchebag. Since the first turn, when I'm trying, I always told. I don't know if I told you, but whenever people like talk to me, I always said I'm going to be like the douchebag. I want to screw everyone. I want like to make intrigues. I want to. That's why no one trusts me in the Odyssey. Like everyone snitches. Like I say, okay, let's do. But I know that they're going to snitch.
Yeah.
I just want to make. For example, if someone snitches to another one, I want that person that hears about the snitching to be like, is that snitching true? Like, is he telling me what really happening, or he's also making an intrigue of the intrigue? So I want to mess with people's head, and that's what I'm trying to do now in the Rise of Three Kingdoms Outseats. I'm trying to see who's the best pick for me to fuck them up. Like I say, okay, let's do this and whatnot, and the first opportunity that I see, I will try to screw them over, and back and forth, so that meanwhile I try to strengthen myself. Like, I want to give as much time as possible for me to grow, and the other ones to be scrambling against each other. That's my goal.
So when it comes to Warhammer, the Call of Warhammer, what direction are you going to be going with that then?
For what you told me, and for what I've seen there's a guy called Arch Warhammer, I believe, and
Yes.
I saw some of his videos, and since I like to role play, I'm going to maybe, well, technically I need to destroy everyone, but the way that I would like to play is like an isolationist way, where I want to strengthen my positions, and whenever I have the confidence to set out, I will try to conquer weak places and trying to make my power like that. And depending on the character, for example, I did not know, but apparently through the mod, my faction leader is like chivalric. Like, I thought vampires were evil as shit, but my faction leader has a lot of chivalry and whatnot. So I will try and play mostly like, for example, in the first turn of the hot seat, I my main regions are close connection with the dwarfs. So the messages that I would send to the dwarfs would be mostly like honorable messages because they're conducted by the faction leader. But for example, with the Empire, Rakeland, that is you, there's a little castle close to your lands. I think it's
Bloodkeep. Yep.
and that one is incredibly separated. So I'm thinking this castle is not like governed as the same way as the mainland. So the Bloodkeep castle would be governed differently. And since the general inside the Bloodkeep is like a freaking evil maniac, I'm going to be a little more aggressive in the messages. Like the messages to the Empire will be like conducted through that character on Bloodkeep. Depending on the situation and depending on the character that is sending a message, I'm going to make a different, because since this is roleplay, each messages will be signed by a certain general or character. And
I think
through that,
sorry, I was gonna say, I think I made a mistake on my turn, and I addressed as the Lord of Sylvania rather than the specific title. And I read it, I was like, oh, Von Connor, so that's probably the faction leader. So I just wrote Lord of Sylvania. So I think I have to. Oops, my bad.
that's okay. But I signed as Philip von Karstein. It was not Manfred. I think Manfred.
Yeah, I saw the Von Karstein. I was like,
Hey,
oh
wait a
yeah,
minute.
Karstein. That's currently Karstein's the
Wait
leader.
a
of it.
minute. Don't you know a lot about Warhammer?
I do, but I don't know which setting they have for the mod, so I didn't actually look into what each faction has as the set leader. So
okay,
remember,
because I
like you and I
thought-
talked about Manfred, we talked about Vlad, and we talked about the other Karsteins. I didn't know which Karstein was in power at this time.
Oh, I thought you knew that was Manfred.
No, I thought this was post Manfred, post like all of them, so I have to look into exact time period that this mod is trying to depict. I think it actually says the year, so I have to look back into that because I couldn't remember if this was post or pre Storm of Archon, which was the big massive invasion from Chaos Undivided, so I have to look into that.
But finishing what you asked me, the way that I'm going to play, it will be isolationist. But unfortunately, I will have to make incredible counter-offensives because Sturland and Ostermark will want to kill me. Because they don't like me at all. And I even talked to you about the first turn. And so what I want to do is just like, I don't want to be expansionist because I don't think the vampires will do that. For what I've heard, the vampires just like to be on their own place. So
Depends on the ruler.
yeah, depends, of course. But I think Manfred, I don't know.
I think Manfred was the one that just kind of like wanted to work with the Empire. I have to double check on that, but I think he was the one who was like just not the insane one.
Okay, because I was thinking because I think Arch Warhammer told like that there was one vampire that almost conquered all of Empire.
Yep.
And then there was another one that was like very happy, like very friendly, and did not want to expand. So anyway, for what I know, I think Manfred is a good guy, and he does not want like to attack everyone. So I'm only going to defend myself, and whatever rebels that I can catch, I will go for it.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to look into the Karstein lore, because as you can tell, I get all the Von Karsteins mixed up in my head. I'm always like, that Von Karstein did what again? I get like the names is for the Sylvanians, because they're all something Von Karstein, I get them all mixed up all the time. So I'm always like, which Karstein was it that did that? So I have to look into that stuff again. I have to read that like every turn before, refresh memory. It's, okay, yeah, this is the good Karstein. Oh, that's the bad Karstein. Oh, that's the Karstein that just kind of was there. Because yeah, it's just keeping track of all the Karsteins is just impossible for me. It's like so easy with the Empire. We have the Emperor, Karl Franz. That's about it. Everyone else just kind of goes underneath him. I don't have to worry about, changes of leadership. Before that, we had Magnus the Pious and a bunch of other guys. So I'm like, okay, it's easy to kind of follow, one person at a time, completely different names. It's not so-and-so von Karstein, so-and-so von Karstein. It's completely different names, so.
Wait. Before you go to the next question, I just realized, also, when I was talking about, like, the way that I'm going to play, it's going to also affect each individual city, because for what I know, the vampire counts are not like incredibly unified.
No.
Each castle is like commanded by a count, so whatever traits each count as, I'm going to act differently. For example, if there's a count that does not like a certain race, I might make war, like trying to make conquest against that race. Or if there's like a count that does not like to fight very much, I'm not going to send them on campaigns. Depending on each count, I'm going to make different moves. Like, I want to make them not as like a unified faction. So there will be a little fight against each count. Like each count wants to conquer, and they're not unified. Each city is like commanded by a different count, I believe.
Well, you see, even from the Empire itself, it's technically not unified at all. I mean, each county has its own elector count who goes at war with other elector counts commonly, goes at war for the Emperor. Just they kind of do their own thing. And that's one beautiful thing about Warhammer lore. They wrote it so that even your own faction can fight your own faction and still be well within the lore boundaries. But speaking of factions, so with Total War being announced, and they've announced that there's going to be 4 factions right off the bat. We have the Sylvanians, the Dwarves, the Orcs, and the Empire. They promised that each of these will be very different. Do you feel they may actually live up to this compared to past Total Wars where factions really weren't that different? Do you feel they actually might keep that and actually have these 4 factions be 100% different from each other?
Yes, for sure.
So you're feeling comfortable about this then? You feel that they can actually live up to the lores, the stories behind these factions, and actually make them play and feel like they would if they're on the tabletop?
For what I know, I believe people from Games Workshop are like giving hints to the team. Like, I think they're helping in the creation of the Total War game. So if people from the Games Workshop are involved, I think they're going to do their damn best to make every faction amazing. So what I'm just not liking it is that they're just 4, and that you need to buy in. For what people say, like, each faction will cost a lot, because if they're saying each faction is different, they will need to do different model animations. They'll need to do new skills. And honestly, if that's going to happen, I'm not inclined to buy, because I really do not have the cash to be expanding so much in Total War Warhammer.
That was actually going to be a follow-up question, but I guess you kind of answered right off the bat. You're not a big fan of the DLC marketing system that they have going right now. Is there something that you would be more fan of? I mean, we already got sadly announced that modding community is not going to be permissible with this game, that it's not going to be Steam supported. Games Workshop doesn't want it, so any mod you get for it is going to have to be a third-party download on your own, install on your own kind of mod. How do you feel towards that current policy?
Yeah, I hate it. I loved so much how Rome 1 and Medieval 2 did it, where like you started with just 2 or 3 factions, and when you ended a campaign, you would unlock new factions. But they were already in the game. And what I believe is true DLC is like new campaigns. For example, the Barbarian Invasion and the Alexander expansion for Rome 1. Those are true DLCs. Like Medieval, the Kingdoms DLC. That is a true DLC because it's a new set, it's a new time period. And also with Shogun, you have the Fall and the Rise of the Samurai. And they look amazing. But units and like factions unlocking, I believe that's all already inside the game. And they just cut off so that it can get more money from it. And I hate that.
Well, we'll see how it pans out. That may be the case. It may not be. We'll see how they do handle the other races. Speaking of which, so do you feel we'll hopefully see all the races in the game? Will they all be DLCs? Will they actually be making it into the game? Or do you feel some factions may actually get the cut?
Well, if what they're speaking is true, I believe there's going to be a trilogy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, but I believe that maybe each game will be focusing in a certain part of the Warhammer world.
Mm-hmm.
Like one of the three will be focused on this part, and another one will be focused on this part. Because I really I don't know if they're going like to make each expansion, or I don't know if they're like individual games or if they're DLCs. I don't know, but if they're going just to change the time period or if they're going to expand the campaign map, because I don't see them like doing a full map of Warhammer.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think is that that's probably impossible to make like a full map of
Well,
Warhammer, like the whole world.
they pretty much did most of the map when it came to Empire Total War, so they maybe do something very similar to that. I don't know it. I'm not a coder. I'm not someone who knows game mechanics and things like that, so I don't know how they're going to handle that. It's definitely an interesting question. I'm going off the theory that I feel they're just going to expand, like they're going to make the old world and then expand little bits here and there and just kind of like an onion, add layers to it in a sense. But who knows? I think it's all kind of speculation and theory. Now, I don't actually have any more official questions. Is there anything you want to kind of talk about, add, or just kind of spit out to the fans who are listening right now?
Well, this is not really important, but about the Call of Warhammer mod, the hot seat, uh, because that one is so incredibly full of scripts that is impossible to recruit agents like diplomats
Mm-hmm.
and whatnot. I tried to mod it, but it crashed. So the only way for factions, human factions at least, to make agreements is through hot seat messages. Like they need to address in the hot seat messages, like to the other faction, that this is the. For example, I made like treaties. Like I
Mm-hmm.
send a message and I put like the treaty or something, and said it what I wanted, and the other player needs to respond to that. And when if he says yes, it's like he needs to follow with that. If not, he will have to lose all of his income for 3 turns.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's a huge punishment, but really far from that, I'm just hoping that people will like the hot seat, because whenever I saw that Warhammer was coming and that I knew that Call of Warhammer was in, I was like, oh shit, I need to be the first to make the hot seat. Ah, someone is going to try and do it. No.
There's a lot of Let's Plays campaigns coming up for sure, but I think we're pretty much the only real hot seat that's rocking out right now.
Yeah, I tried to be as fast as possible because I thought, oh my god, someone was going to try. Oh, let's go to hot seat.
Yeah,
Oh
I,
boy.
I think those definitely unite the community and just kind of show people what they may actually see, and when it comes to the coming of Total War.
Yeah,
But
but that's what I already said. I think honestly, I don't know. I really don't know, but I think like the mod will be much better.
it may be
Like
the case.
of course that the game will have better graphics, better animations, but at least with a mod you have all of them without paying, and they look incredibly good. The
Mm-hmm.
models and the units and the textures in the mod, as long as the other ones, like I'm absolutely sure they're going.
Hold a second, we're getting some bad lag. All right, I think. So sorry for the interruption, folks. As you may be able to tell from the sound quality, sounds like our communication here, which is Skype. Shout out to Skype if you guys are watching this. Fix your shit. We're having a little bit of a lag and timing out issue, so I think it's making the voices in return a bit robotic. But anyway, we were talking about the Call of Warhammer scripts and talking about how the mod actually is probably going to be better than the actual game due to graphics and such like that. Would you like to
Yeah,
carry on?
but what I was saying is that I absolutely think they're going to do all factions. It's going to take a while, but I absolutely believe they're going to do it because for what I know, like people like Warhammer, like every single faction is incredibly unique, and like some are dwarves, some are lizards, some are beasts, some are like chaos dwarves, and like they are not copies of
Mm-hmm.
other factions. For you have incredible examples in all Total Wars that you see. You have like 20 or more factions that are just carbon copies of some other faction. Like I'm not talking about the old Total War games. I'm talking about new ones with
Mm-hmm.
Rome 2 and Attila. You have like several copycats, and for what I've seen, each faction in Warhammer is incredibly unique. So I really believe they will trying to do as much DLC as possible because they know they have a fan base to buy, the
Mm-hmm.
Warhammer fan base. They know, okay, this is going to be a huge profit because there's like thousands upon thousands of Warhammer fans that probably have like a dream of playing in a game. Like, finally, I'm going to be able to play my faction instead of being a tabletop, and like I will be able to see them moving
Mm-hmm.
and whatnot. So I believe that they're going to do all factions.
Awesome. Yeah, I hope to see them all, and I hope, and I doubt it, but I'm hoping that we do get to see all the factions. Well, that pretty much wraps up all the questions I have. I
Okay.
I thank you for your time. I don't really have anything else to ask here. I'm kind of out of questions. I do definitely look forward to seeing more of your work on YouTube, and I think we're gonna definitely have to have a follow up, kind of interview slash podcast here. Talk about more of our hot seats for sure, and definitely talk about more of what's going on with those hot seats, and as well when Warhammer Total War does come out, kind of talking about that. Um,
Okay.
yeah, definitely. Do you have a farewell or something like that, like to say to the audience?
Yeah, everyone. I really hope that you have enjoyed this, and I hope to be in more with my fellow YouTuber and friend Drahcir. And I just hope that you have enjoyed, everyone.
All right.
That's
Thanks for
all.
watching, guys. Thank you, Wise Coffin, once again. Thank you for your time, guys. Links to his channel will be down below, as well as any third-party media he has, like Facebook or anything like that, all down below. Do check out links. Will be linked as well as to our hot seats, to the rules for our hot seats, all that. There'll be thousands of links down below. Check out all of them. They're all pretty awesome. I'll annotate and show them all. Anyway, guys, do like, favorite, subscribe, comment below, and as always, I'll see you on the high ground.